Can you see the slide now?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
You
It's
can
Yes,
see,
sir.
right?
Yeah, quite great enough
Okay,
this one.
okay. IT is something that we have to learn slowly. You
Yes, sir.
know, we are born little too early for, very specialized in technology. That's the problem. Okay, how are you all?
Yeah, fine. Yeah, fine. Yeah, fine, sir.
Very
Yes,
good,
sir.
very good. Yesterday we are not able to share. Most of us cannot share.
Yeah.
What I try to do is, you know, I don't know whether there is a specific specific term like uh, leadership formation foundation. When we study some theology, especially in the West, they have what they call it spiritual formation, and they have built the spiritual life of each of the students, all of us, and based on that, we are allowed to continue our studies.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to do here is I tried to find out in the management book, but I did not find it. But I would like to. I am including these things because I like to have a sort of leadership formation, series. And this level I'm working on is actually for the middle level leadership. Senior is extremely high. We are not going to do that. This is middle. So for the basic of leadership building for a Christian, the basic issues requirements are, yesterday some of it always shared, that the person has to be a born again leader. That I agree fully. We need to know what is spiritual transformation, how being born in Christ is very, very important. That is one of the basic requirements for studies like this. Then, if we are going to be a leader, if we are going to be a theological student, and if we are going to be a pastor or something else in a Christian ministry, the basic requirement number two is always, our call, clarity of call. Abraham was called. He was asked to do three things. Then he was promised seven things. All those things later on we are going to study. So we need to be very clear about our call. Okay.
Yes.
How are we called? Who call us? And uh, we need to base those call also from biblical word or some hymns, so that it has to have a very clear clarity, and that people can also have some sort of confidence in us. We cannot just say, oh, God told me, God called me, and God says
Yeah.
like that. Last night God talked to me, this morning God talked to me. When some women in Northeast India started sharing about how God talked to them, I was thinking, how did God have so much of time to talk to such women, in some villages?
Yes.
3, 4 times some women will claim that God talked to me, God talked to me.
Hmm.
Actually, it is God is not talking to us directly. Only in John, Gospel John, God talked to the people directly for the last time. And it was the time of Jesus, then through Holy Spirit.
Hmm.
So the call has clear on the call. Then we have to be a student of obedient to the word of God. This is very, very important. Then we can build our foundation of leadership, prospective leadership, only based on that. So that's why I put it, sometime I thought it may be a little different from some of the leadership books, but then we have to build a foundation of people who wanted to be leader, and who, whether we want it or not, we would becoming leaders, because it has to be that way. We are called to serve. There are so many people who wanted to be very, very enthusiastic about leadership. And when we study the book of Old Testament, it is not very clear whether God was so happy about that. That's why we call Moses, a reluctant leader. Then there are several other people who are reluctant leader in the Bible. Can you tell me some reluctant leaders in the Bible, at least from the Old Testament?
Moses.
Moses was
Moses.
one. Yes, very true. God said, I have heard the cry of my people in Egypt, and I want you to go and bring back my people from the bondage of Egypt. Then the one when he was just 40 years old, who was so enthusiastic about being a leader, he tried his best with all his education. What he could hardly do was he was able to hardly kill one person, and that will result in his being run away from Egypt. Then after 40 years of being in isolation, being training under God directly, we do not know how they communicate with God those days, we are not sure. But when God finally called him in Exodus, Moses was very, very reluctant. Who am I that I should go into Pharaoh's house and bring your people from the bondage of Egypt? I am but tongue-tied, When he was just 40 years old, he never said that I cannot speak well and all that. He, like Dr. Sam Kamal interpret the life of Moses, the first 40 lives of Moses. He said, Moses was saying in his mind, I am somebody. Okay? Obedient to the word is very, very important. God find it very difficult to work with people who are somebody. Okay? People who claim to be somebody, God cannot really work with them. So we have to be obedient to the word. Yesterday, many of you have said about obedient to God and being humble. That was very, very good point, very strong point, and very good, components of leadership. Then when another 40 years was over, Moses said, who am I that I should go into Pharaoh's house and bring your people from the bondage of Egypt? He said, who am I? So the first 40 years of Moses' life is always divided as, I am somebody. You can note it down. I did not write it here. Later on, we'll put it, in writing most probably. So the first 40 years of Moses' life is like, I am somebody. I have seen the suffering of my people. I can do at least something with my learning, my strength, young and strong, But then he tried, the harder he tried, he was able to kill just one Egyptian. There was not enough for, the task that God was going to give him. So 40 years in wilderness, very, very lowly job, looking after the sheep, and that also his father-in-law's sheep. In the tribal context, staying with the in-laws, they said is very, very difficult. It is very, very shameful, we call it, tribal especially. If you go and stay in your wife's house, then, the way people will look at you is also very, very different. And they said we cannot eat food properly when we stay in our wife's house. And it is very difficult to rule over our wives also, they say. Moses lived under the roof of his wife's father, Jethro. 40 years. Then all alone in the jungles with just sheep, braying. The only thing he could hear was maybe the wind blowing sometime and the trees making some noise. Then what else? The braying of the sheep. So when God called him in Exodus, when God appointed him, he said, I am nobody. So the second 40 years of Moses' life, note it down. The second 40 years of Moses' life is, I am nobody. Okay, if you can hear me, you can note it down. First 40 years, he said, I am somebody. I can do things on my own. I am young, I am strong, I am a learned man. So he could hardly kill one person. Okay? So second 40 years of Moses' life is,
This first 40 years.
I am nobody.
Second 40 years.
Second, okay, second 40 years of Moses' life. Then when he started saying that God really wanted him,
Nobody.
that is leadership. I'm trying to, touch intentionally about certain things. When he said, I am somebody, I can do this, that, but then God did not use it. When God interacted with him, and finally he was chosen to do what he wanted to do, he said, I am nobody. Who am I that I should go into Pharaoh's house in Egypt and to bring your people from the bondage of Egypt? I cannot talk properly. I am a tongue-tied person. I am not fit. You see? That is what he said. When our humanity, when our nature, very strong nature, when our knowledge, everything that we acquire, cannot really do, when we admit that cannot really do, that is the time God wanted to use us. He said, Moses had completed, all the wisdom of Egypt. Dr. Sam Kamalasan said he's a reverend doctor, Moses. But all those things cannot help him. It was looking after the sheep as a shepherd that molded his heart from very high level to the bottom. Then he said, who am I that I should go into Pharaoh's house? See, that is the thing. That is what I call it. That was exactly when Moses was 80. So the second 40 years of Moses' life is, if you want to sum up, he said, I'm nobody. Then the third 40 years of Moses' life is truly history. He cannot do every time the people will cry to him, complain and complain and complain and complain all the time. You will not find, these Israelite people rejoicing. I could see only once they are so happy when they are, delivered from the Red Sea. They started dancing. Just like the Northeast people, they took a drum and they started hitting the drum and started dancing. That was followed by what? Complaint. Complaint after complaint. There are so many complaints. Maybe in detail we'll see that. Finally, Moses' dependence to God was 100%. Okay? Or if you want to say 110%. Like people when they exaggerate, out of 100, 110. Anyway, that is not correct. He was 100% dependent on God. So if you want to sum up the third 40 years of Moses, he said God is everything. I am nobody to God is everything. Okay? Whatever he does was through the power of God. That's why we put it, God is everything. So in leadership formation, these are very, very important. I wanted to make very sure that our leadership is built not on what we acquired in a university or what we get from seminaries or what we experience, though these things will help. The main thing that would glorify God is knowing that our ability and capacity will not be able to go on alone. So we are nobody, then God will call us. Many of you are, still students, very young, and, just like a bamboo shoot going up, pointing to heaven, right? Then when the time comes, bamboos will come down, Slowly will come down and bend, and some will even, almost touch the ground. So it is important that as we are learning a middle-level leadership, we need to learn the situation of the church. Yesterday we have done that example. Why I did that? Because I wanted to see your analytical power. Okay. How do they call it? Environmental scanning also. How can you scan your surroundings? Okay. That ability is very, very important. finding the real situation of the church and its people. How are we going on? Then you have identified some of you. Some of you are, I have to give you, those of you who have not shared yesterday, some more time. So we can analyze things properly and we can be very critical. Listen very carefully. Why leadership is important is that just knowing what is bad is not leadership. You'll become a critic. You'll become very critical. You got my point?
Yes.
When Nehemiah had gone and surveyed the extent of the maze of the world, he had seen it. It did not stop. He did not stop there. That's where he chalked out a plan of action for him, for the leaders, and for the people. That's why you find out what are the hindrances or the issues that prevent the church. Should be. You all did very well yesterday. Four, right? 4 or 5 of the heads. Sorry, 4, I think. It was wonderful. We cannot stop there. If you stop there, you are not qualified to be a leader. You'll be just a critic person. Okay? And it will be like an Israelite, complaining, babus and complaining babis. We don't want people like that. So, why did I ask you to find a remedy? How do we address those issues? That is leadership formation. You're building your leadership foundation by identifying some of the critical issues, then at the same time identifying what are the steps to be taken in order to solve or to address those issues. That is part of what I call it, leadership formation, the foundation that we are trying to build. So the solution that we exercise, normally leadership is not theoretical, class. That's why we have to do this. Maybe during this coming few more days, we'll continue at least 2 or 3 more times practical. When we study, in our universities, it was extremely important that part of the theoretical class test has to be followed by individual presentation and group presentation. So there's always debate among ourselves, when we study our management. It was very, very challenging. The only problem was they have given us so many books to read, and some of us got sick because of the heavy materials. So as we go in today, also we'll start a little bit. Now we are talking. You can feel we are talking about servant leadership. A little bit started scratching because I want to go in a day or two in detail about servant leaders. What is servant leader? How did we derive this? Okay. So this is part of my purpose for building leadership foundation. You should be able to find out the problem, analytical power. Then you should be able to find the solution at the same time. That is leadership, not just finding faults, finding alternative. So when we find out those things, what do? We are not yet in a leadership. That is the second part of leadership formation. We cannot be critical of the leaders. Okay, what you have learned and find out yesterday may not be truly aware by many of your pastors and leaders. So if you just go and say, this is what we have to do, you had not done, then they'll be shocked. And they'll be very defensive. That is not going to solve the problem. So these findings as part of your practical class, we are not going to do most probably, written exam. I want to emphasize on this. As part of your leadership the formation, these are the issues you have to share at appropriate level and appropriate, headquarter or whatever you have. Just sharing wherever we go is not going to solve, but there are appropriate places and there are people who are responsible for that, and we have to share to that. That is the second level of leadership formation. I know the problem. I find out now. I pray about it with my friends. We chalk out. These are the problem of our church or our association or Northeast India. So what I do, these are I think, the responses, the issues that can really address to this problem. Then third is to be said to people who are in authority. If they take, very fine. If they refuse to take, if they refuse to change, that's between them and God. Okay? This is important. One very senior church leader, who is no more many years ago, I was still very young at that time. We were called by the NEI management team for church leaders meeting. Being, part of the leadership of the region in World Vision of India, I was also called. His name is Reverend H. Eliana. I don't know whether, Johnny, you are able to know that. Maybe you may not know him. Reverend H. Eliana, TBCU General Secretary, the very well-known TBCU General Secretary. You may not be born maybe, but that time. We are together in 1984 in that training, April, in Shillong, and they have organized in that Shillong Club. For church leaders, they organize in a Shillong Club. That is very interesting, because Shillong Club is, where you can have alcohol and all that also. Mm. Anyway, the pastors, they are seniors, so we don't need, they don't need any controlling. Mm. So that roommate, Reverend H. Nelia now, the more than the age, about the age of my father, we are roommate. He told me, the classes are excellent. If I had done like this, TBCU, Tripura Baptist Christian Union, will be growing like anything, he said. Wait, just a minute. Salumullah is coming, let's admit. Mm. So he said, if I had done these things before, my church is going to be very growing, much better than this, he said. I said, Uncle, you can do that now. He said, but now we are old. When I go back, I'll do the same way. When you call many leaders, they know that they are good and it will be effective. Because we have excellent, preachers, speakers. For example, a person like, who is that Conan in Oxford University? Samuel. Dr. Samuel was there. C.B. Samuel was also there, two Samuels anyway. And so many other leaders, national and international people. Excellent leadership components were taught to us. He said, well, these are good, but when we go back, we'll do the same way we have been doing, he said. Leadership is internalizing what we learn. We have to have the patience to implement and to experiment those things. That is the third stage of what I wanted to call today, leadership formation. Okay. So we have to form ourselves in such a way that we may be learning a little bit of theory only, but we'll be able to do a lot of difference in the life of the church and other people through our practical classes. So we understand, right?
Yes.
That's very good. Now, let me stop here. Otherwise, I'll continue. I want to continue. I would like, yesterday, some of you had not shared. Who all are those people?
Me also, sir. I haven't shared.
Sangma, right?
Yes, sir.
Sangma, then who else? Sangma and who else?
Me also, sir.
Mangi Babu also you have not
I'm
shared
also.
yesterday. Mangi also had not shared yesterday.
Yes.
Who else?
Yeah.
I also did not share, sir.
Who is that?
Stewart.
Steve.
Stewart.
Will you share first? Can you share? We may not see your picture, but your voice is very clear, loud and clear. Can you share what are the issues facing the churches in Northeast India, according to you? And then, what are, the solution to that? How do we address those issues? Stewart?
Yes, sir. I can hear you.
Yeah, can you share some of your thoughts?
I want to share a little thought about the issues of the Northeast India.
Yes, very good.
Yeah. As far as our Manipur state is concerned, regarding the leadership in the church, especially, actually supposed to rule and lead by the so-called pastor and the church leader. But the thing is now due to the what we call educational terms, some of the people want to take up the responsibility of even the pastors, even the leaders, and this is why even it's unable to function in what we call in regards of the spirituality, and moreover, many people are going towards the materialistics. Some of the way how I could see somehow, and actually in my church, I want to share the problem in my church about my church. The thing is, they are unable to distinguish between the church leaders and the elders and the authority of the village. So most of the authority of the village want to take up even the decision of the church leader of what they supposed to do it. So that is the another problem, another issue that church, leaders unable to function what's supposed to be function in their activities. And the what we call even in the mission fields, sometimes the what we call they are not even try to listen the leadership or advice or suggestions that's supposed to be followed. Some of the things that only somehow I could see, that's all. But there are many, but I will try to share a little bit later.
But just one question, quick questions. You talk about some people trying to do the work of pastor job. You mean these are some lay people?
Yeah, it means something like the educated people also, and even the laymen, even the laymen. So they want to dominate, at least since they are the founder of the so and so. So that is the thing, that is the issue. Somehow it's coming from the beginning onward. So they are unable to change it, those things.
Okay. Do you have time to see how you can address this problem? You can share the remedies now.
So this is actually the remedies which we can somehow overcome all these problems that which is happening in the church or in the mission. Actually, that a person, they're supposed to actually commit themselves into the hands of God, and they should be humble, and they should know that the pastors or the leader is chosen by the God, chosen by God, and they are the servant of God who's supposed to serve in the so-called, in the Old Testament time, we call the tabernacles and all. So during this time, we call the church, and they have to be obedience in the what we call according to the word of God. They should work. Then they should be humble in the sight of God. Then only the obedience and even the righteousness, as well as the integrity and transparency that will happen in the church, and the unity will be there in the coming future. It will be somehow we can go forward. That's what I want to say a bit.
How do you would like to solve the problem between the not really a problem, but there's some contention and tension between the church and the village authorities? How would you suggest?
Yeah, I want to bring forth a bit idea regarding this one. Actually, they should know it. What is church people first, and their duty and the church duty, and between them they should know each other, their own responsibility, and the authority they should know their own responsibility, because it's called the administrations. It comes administration blocks. So even the authority in the village, they have their own responsibility and their authority, what we call their act, what we call to be acting upon that rules and regulation of the authorities. And even the church, they have a lot of roles in the administrations in the church also. So when the outsider person, when he just put his finger on fires, something like idiomatic, that he's supposed to be burned by himself only, but he should not cross the border, but he should rather he should obey the church and work under the church what they're supposed to be. When authority, the works that happen in the authority side, they should deal with that authority. So what I mean, in between they should have understanding, and those authority also they should know this is the church is supposed separated for the for God and God alone, so that we can follow in that. I mean, like godly people in to be followed them, and in the authority side and this church side, they should know between them. One is something like they're working for the like physically, outwardly, they should deal with actually in the village authority, but in the church side, they're dealing with the spirituality and trying to help others to the right path. So I don't know how I did I reach my point or not? I don't know.
Okay, that is very clear. You said well. You know, the problem in management when you come to leadership will be who will bail the cat. You find out the problem, and you also find out who created the problem. Who will go and talk to those people? That is what we call it. Who will bail the cat? As you all are, some of your teachers, some of your students, as you go back, I think these are the issues we intentionally had to address, share with the people. These are very, very important. And with all these things that you have found out since yesterday, all these things are prevailing in your church life. How can God's church, which is holy, which is, spirit-led church, can really grow? This is very, very disappointing. So I think you all did very well in your spiritual, leadership formation. I'm really happy there. Okay, thank you. Now, Mangi Babu, are we coming to you, or who will be first? Sangma or you?
Pastor Sangma is ready.
Okay, Sangma is ready. Okay, brother,
Okay, go ahead.
over to you.
The first one is dictatorial leadership in a church, sir.
Okay.
When a very so-called pastor is become senior pastor, they have always some sort of dictatorial leadership in their functioning. That's one of the issue in the churches right now. It's like building their own kingdom, so-called. And then second thing is, yesterday sisters have already shared it, moral Christian character. So among the Christians, especially in Northeast, we are so-called Christian states, but we have so down in moral Christian characters. What we cannot say that it is a Christian. We have morally very valued operation. That's the second issue. And the third issue is we are raising believers or like a factory where we can raise people to make money or to make what do you say, church grow, but not as a missionary believer. We are not raising a missionary believers. Earlier, Christians in Northeast were missionary to all the other tribes.
Right.
But right now, we don't see any Christians from the Northeast going as a missionary to other tribes. That's a very sad thing for us. So that's the three things that I want to share.
Okay.
Hello, brother. Sir, before that, can you repeat the number 3, that point, if you convenience?
Okay.
Yeah.
We are raising believers. We are raising believers, so-called as a factory, where we can raise people, where we can raise a number of believers in the church. But we are not raising missionary believers in our church. Earlier, we are sending a missionary from our own churches. Northeast India was a frontline missionary people. But right now, we don't see any missionary going out for any other stage. That's a number 3.
Good.
Brother Akub, sorry.
Yes, sir.
Brother Akub, can you mute your mic? It is echoing. Very difficult to get.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you so much.
that's okay.
Now, Brother Sangma, you can also share what are, your thoughts on responding to these 3 issues that you have found out. What step do we need to take according to you?
Yeah. First one, dictatorial leadership. It is a very difficult one, because when one becomes senior, it's very difficult for them to come down as a level of very to the junior. So we have a lot of what you call crisis in the church, where one senior leader cannot come down with a junior one and cannot function as a team. Somewhere we have fighting between them. So that's a very big issue in the church. But if the senior leaders try to understand what the junior wants to with them, junior want to be work with them, they should have somewhere a link between themselves. I mean, the senior must take junior as along with them to teach what they are going to do. But somewhere it's never working. So it's very difficult. It's a question, and then it's a little bit doubtful, even for me also, sir. Second thing is moral Christian character is very disturbing, especially in Northeast India. We so-called Christian stage, when we go outside, especially as a student or as any person, we have seen many corrupt, moral character, especially drinking alcohol and doing lots of bad things, where we call ourselves as a Christian, but we do very bad things. We cannot, witness a good Christ life in our character. That's a very disturbing. So if we have a good Christian parenting, especially if we have a good Christian parenting in ourselves, I think we could do much better Christian moral character in our churches. That's the thing. And the third thing, that raising missionary believers is a very, challenging one, because over time, Northeast India was a front line in sending missionaries to other churches, other places. But right now, we need some kinds of leadership, that every believer should be a missionary, and every local church should be take active part in mission building or kingdom building business. So, it is a task of every leaders, and especially every believers, so that every believer will be take part in and working as a missionary and expanding in the kingdom of God. I said that's, I don't know whether it's reached a point or not, sir, but that's the thing.
No, that's very good. That's very good. You know, you've said three issues. I have noted it down. One is, I think the first one has a lot of thing. It has to do with ego.
Yeah.
You know, some senior people take its seniority as, you know, part of a spiritual experience. Just because you are senior doesn't mean that you have the spiritual authority. And normally these people become very difficult to reach out. And even if they don't know all, you will act as if sometimes, you know, they know everything.
Mm.
Not only that, they'll not be, you know, what we call it, they'll not come down to, you know, learning level. You know, people
Yes, sir.
who are unteachable, we call it. Very
Yes, sir.
unfortunately, we have seen, people told me that there are many pastors who are not teachable.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of the characteristics, no, one of the spiritual formation, you know, foundation I would like to talk about is also teachability. But we have not
Yes.
gone because we don't have time for all those details. So when leader fail to listen to people's voice,
Mm.
then he is already far aloof, far away from the people. And to them, what I say is right. You know, because the senior people don't want to confront them.
Mm.
And they are not in a position to negotiate with others also. So this had always created problem. It is true.
Yes, sir.
And they would rather build their foundation rather than building, you know, kingdom, God's kingdom, like you say.
Yes.
So they want to be very firm. They want to be the leadership. They want to be very comfortable. Not only that, beyond that, even the spouses of many senior pastors are doing that.
Yes, sir.
I have seen with my own eyes, and I was very disappointed when I was very young. We are asked to have tea in one of very senior leader, senior executive secretary of one big association. You know what happened? The guy came. He was okay. We talked, and his wife came, and she also talked. They said, she asked, what type of house you live in? You know, she asked us. I said, we live in just a one-room house we rented. We don't have our own house those days. She said, for us, our bedroom is 6-bedroom house. You see? Can you understand? That was like, you know, hitting us like with a hammer.
Yeah.
And 6-bedroom apartment for supposed to be servant of God.
Yeah. Just join
If
me.
that type of thinking go into their head,
Network.
not to the heart, okay, they are unteachable. She said, where is our driver? Our driver has not come. I want to go to the market. She thought that the driver of the church is her personal servant, moving around in the organization's vehicle with, you know, chauffeur-driven car. It is very simple. And that's why when people started enjoying not the ministry, but the benefit, you got my point?
Yes, sir.
When people started enjoying not the ministry that God had entrusted them, but enjoying the benefit and the facilities of such position, they are trying by any means. And those people are normally untouchable. That's very true. That's very good. We have so many things, so many people like that.
Yes, sir.
And about the morality of, you know, the people in Northeast India, this is very, very disappointing. Uh, you remember about 2-3 years ago, the dress code, normally the uh, style of the ladies wear very low jean and very high, t-shirts, so that you'll be able to see their belly. 2 or 3 inches of their belly will be shown all the time. If you remember, girls were wearing like that. You remember? Johnny, you remember? Johnny, you remember those type of dress?
Yes, sir.
Then in Delhi and Bombay, people, even church leaders from mainland India, started talking about the Northeast girls. Listen carefully, okay? Then they say, these Northeast girls come for studies or Bible college or whatever it is. They deserve being abused or molested, they say. Just because of that type of dress. They saw their part of little belly, pant waist was very low and the shirts were very high. So you can see some, the belly portion a little bit. They thought that was very sexy. But for some, it may look good, but for some, it was terrible. So in one of the meetings of a meeting organized by EFI, at the time I was the executive member of EFI, people started talking against the Northeast girls because they have been harassed so many times, and they have been, whistle at. People are really, shouting at the girls because they dress very differently and they are also fair in complexion. So in one of the meetings, they started talking about that. Christian leaders and several bishops. I was there. Some people say the girls in Northeast India, they should be told properly to dress. And all these things happen because of their way of dress. Their life is so easy, so many things they say. I listen carefully and I pray to myself that I should control myself. But they talk too much for church leaders. Just because of the dress, the way I dress, you cannot really judge me. That may not be necessarily my character. So what happened was, I could not control myself. Remember, that was not the school boys meeting, but that was church leaders meeting. I stood up, I banged them. When our children from Northeast India saw just 2 inches or 1 inches of their belly, as this is the global style of dress nowadays, fashion, why do you complain, even church leaders? I said, you should protect them. Don't you see your sari wallis? They don't show only 2 inches. They are showing 1 feet of their belly, the front, the back side almost 2 feet. They show everything. And you are not complaining. Why did you complain that not these people? I said, I was in fact very angry. Such is the way. We dress very differently. Sometimes we are misunderstood. But I agree with Brother Sangma. Many of our young people has to be taught the value of morality, Christian morality at home, at Sunday schools, and in the church. We talk what we wanted to talk and which are easy, but we don't address that is the problem. Some of the issues. Many of the Northeast people behave very badly, I know. There are many women who are in problem who had called me in the middle of the night, wanting to commit suicide and, standing and the 4 or 5 story on top and trying to jump, and they call me. These are the issues because they behave very properly. I know they married or they live together with some African people, with non-Christian people. I have counsel, I have encountered them. This has to be very, very properly tackled at Sunday school, at home front, and also at the church and the youth meetings. Youth meeting also sometimes, they just make what topic they want the theme. Very interesting themes. We don't need to talk about only interesting things. We are going to talk as a leader, something which is not interesting, but something which is very, very essential for people. I think that point is very good. And yeah, people are trying to raise, money. That's why people wanted so many of, rather than raising good people, we wanted people to give a lot of money. That is also a very good issue. So these are very, very good point, As we discuss and more issues are coming, I am sure you'll be able to catch up with more and more issues that is facing Northeast India. And then we have to think how to really address to these issues also. That's very good, Brother Sangma. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Okay.
All right. Now, Mangi Babu, will you share a few thoughts? You are a missionary. Even then, you'll have a lot of issues, I'm sure.
Completely off. Switch off.
Okay, Mangi Babu.
Hello.
Mangi.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes,
Hello?
yes, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Uh,
Yes.
Most of the points are similar.
Yes.
What I have experienced in my ministry, and apart that, just I would like to pick up one or two points which I face in the ministry as a issue in the church. That is when the leader, when there is some favoritism within the member, and the church leader compromising with the member, and he compromised with one group of people. Then when he left that group, then he go to another group, and he also compromised with that. So the other thing that when it comes as a how to say, when the leader stand as a compromising in the both side, that become really a problem, and the member, they began to murmur against the leader also. So it's one kind of issue. Hello?
Yes.
Sir, can you hear me?
Yes, it's very loud and clear.
And
Go on.
then the second issue, if there is any problem in the church, it is always connected with the financial matter. So it became an issue in the church. So there must be integrity in handling money and all. So
Yes.
financing became an issue in the church. So and the rest of the points are similar with some of my friends who have
Very
shared,
right.
like leadership position, then judgmental leadership, and the most we face in the Manipur is doctrinal issue. Always doctrinal issue is there. So these are some of the issues which I pick up.
Okay. Would you like to add anything on the, how you would like to address about groupism in the church, then financial issues, then you talk about doctrinal issues also. Anything you would like to add on that? Or is that okay?
Regarding financial matters, the financial must be transparent, because if there is no transparent in the handling money, then there is a issue in the church. So there must be clear and transparency handling money, whether in the association or maybe in the local church. So handling money should be very transparent, because it is always a problem in the church. And the rest of the point, if you can add some how to handle all this, sir just give some. If sir can give some suggestion also, that will be very happy.
Yeah, very good, Mangi Babu. You know, Manipur is one state where the church leaders of the tribal groups had failed very miserably for about 100 years. And I have said this among the Daga groups in Imphal, because we have been sending missionaries here and there, but we are not able to really penetrate inside the Meitei community. Then their church group from Ukhrul side, Tamenglong, and the north side and Churchanpur side, they're coming, and you know, instead of forming God's kingdom, they go and sow the seed of denomination. That's why there's a lot of wrong seeds among the Meitei believers. But God is so good. He had touched the heart of Meitei young people, not because of the tribal Christians. I have done a little bit of research, because mission is one of the, you know, things that I really loved. It is in my chest always, in my heart. Then many young people started coming to Christ. And it is the Meiteis and the doing, you know, that evangelism, personal evangelism. And the number of believers are increasing so fast in the last maybe 7-10 years. Even between from airport to Kuakai, no, to airport to Kai, somewhere in between, those days, there are more than 20 house churches in Imphal. All Meiteis, not converted by any tribal churches. But then God himself had revealed to these young people, and they convert one another. That's why the Sangay Express says about 2 years ago in 2016, I was invited by the church leaders of Amkokok, All Manipur Christian Organization Group. At the time, the Sangay Express says there are 40 to 50,000 Christians among the Meitei community. People are shocked. They said, how it's so much? Why it's so much? So I told the church leader to hide the exact number of Christians, not to divulge it. Okay, Arunachal also, they are not willing to divulge for so many years, and the government is keeping 10% all the time. But suddenly when it comes out, Arunachal almost 40% Christian. But very honestly, Meitei Christians, we believe that in the valley, they are about lakh plus Christians. All these are the converted by the Meitei themselves, not outside churches. So when I met with the church leaders of Meiteis, 250 people came, 45 to be exact. Some people could not continue. I told them, on behalf of the tribal churches in Manipur, I apologize. They come and started forming denomination rather than bringing in new people and sheep stealing. So why I'm saying this is, you know, now so many young people are there. When these young people, young pastors, reverend doctors, so many young people, I have seen them. They came to that meeting also. But there are people who wanted to lure them with money, church building and all that. All these are non-Meitei churches. That's where integrity is very, very important. God's church is not with the strength of money alone. Money is important, but God's church cannot be built by money only. Okay, Mangi Babu, you'll understand. Many people go and tempted these believers. I know from Thailand, from Korea, from USA, many Christians from mainland India, they want to partner with them because they're so strong and powerful. So, you know, when these things are happening, people started creating this harmony among some of these young leaders, talking about doctrinal issues, indirectly fighting them, fighting, allowing these people to fight because of the greed of many church groups. So this groupism in Manipur, in the valley itself, is not actually first bred by the local people. It is from outside influence. That is very, very clear, and I'm so sorry for that. So this type of groupism need to be solved through leadership training, leadership orientation, meeting the leaders very often. I ask the Meitei Church leaders to come together very often so that there'll be unity and understanding always. Financial issue is very, very important. You pointed out. No one had pointed out financial issues. I have been waiting, but you have pointed out very, very true. There is lack of transparency in Christian organizations and churches. I know that for sure. That's why I call it, listen very carefully, this type of mismanagement of finance in the church, I call it evangelical accounting. Okay, you got my point? I call it evangelical accounting because people are very evangelical. They want to hide their misdeed under the umbrella of evangelism. But under that, if you open it, financial integrity is very lacking. This is important. Very, very important. That's why accounting system and everything, all these things has to be not only transparent, but the auditing issue also has to be initiated by the churches. And audit guideline has to be given. Audit is not just balancing. This much is spent, there is voucher here, balancing. Balance is this much. No. How did they spend this one? Was it in the plan? All this type of internal audit also has to be in place in the churches. I cannot say more than that. That's very, very important. Doctrinal issues is, if we are evangelical group, I thought that should be very fine. There will be maybe, most importantly, there may be about 3 to 5 important doctrinal issues rather than, raising so many things. We form denomination within the same doctrine. Then we just want to be leader. We need so many leaders to be absorbed. That's why we form churches. That is not really the way. That's what's happening. So, yes, Mangi Babu, that's very good point. And rest of you had already done, right? I want to show you some of the issues that I have brought out for all of you. Issues facing Northeast today that need church intervention. Okay. Insurgency is one of the issues which stop the development process. Okay. And health, HIV and AIDS, the lifespan of so many young people in Northeast India. Why do we lead as a Christian? HIV and AIDS. It is because of morality issues, right? And drugs issues. School dropout and street children, so many. The highest is tribal area in Tripura. When we did Sentinel, we checked Sentinel survey, 86 school dropout in tribal areas in Tripura. That is very painful. Even in Assam, there are 73 to 70% dropout. There are always crops failures, which the world never know. Every corner of Northeast, every year there will be some problem related to, you know, crops failures. And because of that, there poverty which no one knows. Communal violence is in plenty. And so many bans. Manipur can have 65 ban in a year. You know that? And I think that there'll be more also now. 65 days bans in a year. More than 2 months they can ban, and they're still eating food. That's wonderful. And we have disasters, and we also have some, you know, environmental concern. I'll just read it through without explaining. Then there are age gap, technology gap. We talk about senior leaders and young people. Actually, we talk about age gap. It is not age gap. It is technology gap, knowledge gap, and intellectual gap. Okay, this is very, very important. I have no time to talk about the percentage of brain use. Maybe later on, if I don't forget, in some class we'll try to put in there. Technology knowledge gap is so much. Why? I want to find out later on. Understanding of needs gap. There are so many needs, and there's a gap in that also. And pulpit preaching misses its marks and targets. We preach what we like, and what we like may not be necessarily what the people need. Education. Government schools, see, are pathetic. Private school anyway, run school are better. School dropout highest in Northeast in India. Curriculum to be reviewed, value added, teaching job oriented subject. All these things the government are not doing. I think the church also has to raise this issue. Literacy, post-literacy classes, and student bodies in Northeast India are politicized. This is very bad. And schoolless teachers and teacher-less school. They are school without teachers. They are teachers without school also. That is interesting. This thing happened only in India. Social and political. Tribalism and clanism. You know, this is very strong. We are headhunters. We call ourselves headhunters. But that head hunting mentality and DNA is still there in our vein. Okay. Look at the broken homes. Look at the barriers, language barriers we have. More than 350 different languages, the dialects we have in Northeast India. We have boundary because of the language. We make boundary because of the geographical. Because of the color of our shawls only, we make, you know, some differences. Oh, that one is Ao, that one is Naga, that one Mizo, no, that one Kuki. That is very bad. Not forgiving spirit. In Northeast tribal, when they said we forgive, bring 1 lakh and we'll forgive you. You know, the cost of forgiving is also too expensive. Kill 1 pig, 1 cow, and then we'll forgive you. Very, very, you know, expensive forgiving system. Corruption practices in all places. We have land issues in all areas. All tribals, this harmony because of, you know, land issues. And our politics are without policy and vision. Our politicians are only for election and their belly. That's why all these things happen. Poverty and crop failures, I have said, 50% not having sufficient harvest. Most of the time, because I work in an organization, I know about that. So, repeated insurgency and repeated bans, we have said that. Poor infrastructure and communication. We have started trying to have train services only nowadays. It's very shameful. That's the way we are. Drug use in villages also increased. Why thieves are increased in Christian states? Why are more thieves, for example, in Churchandpur than in Imphal Valley? Okay. Then we have the bun culture and you know, gun culture. you have said eroding of moral values. Then unemployment for educated people and semi-educated and educated increased. Gun culture and all this, you know, insurgency, many of you may not be feeling the pang of that. I have been given so many love letters while I was looking after NGOs. The love letter is give this much of rupees for our organization. If you don't pay this, we'll send you a bullet. You know, these type of things are very, very painful. So many issues are here, which the church also will take partly. We have theological issues. You see that? I cannot read all this. And mushrooming of, you know, foreign assisted seminaries. Many foreign assisted seminaries are very rich. The people become very rich, but the students are not very rich in their studies. Many Indians, including Northeast India, we have projects as a bread earning ministry. That's why last year also 26 FCRA, Foreign Contribution Regulation Act, was cut by the government of India because we misuse. And many projects and ministries are untouchable, not accountable to anyone. Many organizations like in Andhra Pradesh and other parts of India are run by families, owned by families, Christian organization. That's why Christian's image is, you know, getting fun only, you know, something like that. Full of momentary doctrines and momentary speakers. Political issues, I have said that. Poor governance in the church. And we are not addressing those issues we find out. We have to, when you go back, you have to really address those issues. We are maintaining traditional preaching and governance. We live in 21st century in digital era, but we are still maintaining the way we run the church 100 years ago. How can we be relevant? So what do we do then? Can we begin afresh? Or are we open for new beginning? We need to be open. Open-mindedness. What do you plan to do differently as a leader? Would you like to share your thoughts on this to the group, to your church? The Bible says, launch into the deep. We need to really launch into the deep. Satan is working very hard in Northeast India among the churches. In your own home, in your worship team, among deacon members. Hard to believe but painful. So let me give you one slide, which will be our assignment, your assignment for tomorrow, 16. We'll be slowly going into the servant leadership. So these are 2 points. Number 1, what is your understanding of servant leadership? You must have heard, you must have read it, you must have experimented it. Then, what do you think are the characteristics of servant leader? Come prepare again like you prepare, you know, yesterday. That's very good. What is your understanding of servant leadership as of now? Then what are the characteristics of servant leader? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Any quick questions? We have about how many minutes? 4 minutes.
Sir, here the quick question is 16 September is, today is 16 September. When we are going to submit?
No. Today is 15.
Not for
Today is 16? Okay.
Yeah,
It should be 17 then. I thought today is 15.
Sir, that is kind of discussion or how we have to do this one?
That is your personal assignment. You work on it and we are going to bring it out individually.
Okay.
What is your understanding? Not group, individual. Okay? You find out yourself.
Sir,
Yes.
how many pages, sir, we have to write?
No, you don't need to write. You have to share here.
Oh, okay, okay.
I'm trying to do away with the writing as far as possible. You will share in the group. Okay, your understanding of servant leadership, then characteristic of servant leadership. Each one of you can do that. Rather than writing, we'll share it here again. Then I'll give the comments. Okay.
And sir, the previous, the former one that about the percentage of Christianity in Northeast. It is recent record or
No, 17 now. It is 17. Point little bit.
17. And I heard about Tripura. How is the percentage? I heard
Tripura,
Tripura is Christian.
Tripura, how much was it? I have to check in my slide. It is there. Maybe tomorrow I'll show you the government statistic. Government statistic may not be true, but maybe I can show you, or you can ask some of the TBCU people. I don't know the latest of TBCU, Tripura. Okay.
Okay, sir.
So let us come prepare again. You did so well in the issues facing the church today, and individually you prepare it. As I have said, these are, leadership foundation building. And what is servant leadership? We talk about some churches are, having leaders are having big ego, untouchable. What are the servant leadership? We'll talk characteristic, then later on we'll talk about the examples of servant leadership also. I want at least 2 or 3 sessions on this. This is very, very key and central in the Christian leadership skills. Right? Time is over. Is that okay?
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good.
Thank you.